A goal, Chris Billy, Huddersfield Town. The most famous goal of Chris Billy's life.
Is this the moment for Lee Fowler? It is. Take your place in Division 2, Huddersfield Town.
And Steve Simonson's boots now. He's missed. Steve Simonson clears the frame of the goal and collapses in a heap of tears. Huddersfield Town are promoted.
Mustafa Schindler has a chance to write his name in Huddersfield Town legend. And he takes that chance!
Huddersfield.
Hello and welcome to episode 75 of the Andy Takes That Chance podcast. After a month off, we return rejuvenated, replenished, re-energized, refreshed, revitalized, and any other workable synonym beginning with R on thesaurus.com that I may have missed. As usual, we record this live in front of a YouTube audience. So a big hello and thank you to everyone who has helped make it what it is and joined us online. And we'll be looking to you guys to interact with us tonight throughout as well. So some good news also for us going into this season is that this podcast continues to be sponsored by Magic Rock Brewing, who are now back open at both Holmfirth and Birkby tap rooms. So get yourselves down there and check out the great selections they have on tap, as well as the food truck as well. So tonight we're going to look ahead to the new season and even attempt some predictions, with a small caveat that we may reserve the right to change our minds at the end of this transfer window. So joining myself, Matt Shaw, on tonight's podcast, we have a bumper panel. Firstly, a crooner who is Town's answer to Michael Stipe. It's a reinvigorated Richard Kosi Kosmala.
Yo.
Just like his season card, we have a renewed Neil Wayne.
Good evening.
A man who can't wait to get back to cowshed flag waving, a regenerated Dan Pozza Porritt.
Evening.
There we go. And a man who never stops trying to produce content for you guys. It's a reconstructed Brady Frost. And our special guest this week, he made over 50 appearances for the club, including 17 during the fantastic 03-04 season. And who better place to discuss a young up-and-coming side? It's a restored Phil Senior. Good evening, everybody.
Evening.
Evening.
Okay, so Town, of course, guys, have kicked off already with a defeat away at home to Rochdale, if that makes sense. Town's effectiveness in this competition continues apace. What did you guys make of the game against Rochdale? So let us know on YouTube as well what you thought while I go post the link. But who shall we start? Who shall start us off?
Brady.
Let's go with Brady. Yeah, let us know what you thought of Rochdale. So I'll throw you in at the deep end, Brady, while I go and post some links.
Well, it's it's nice to have the same old. I thought it was a bit of a disappointing game. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, not being in the Carabao Cup, it doesn't really matter. But when you lose to a lower league side, it's never a good thing. I did think we had tidier passing, and it was a bit sharper in some places than we saw under the Cowleys. But same thing as last season, some bad defending, some bad defensive errors, and obviously the goal, the mistake. I think Schindler, Hamer, and Critchlow were all at fault there. And didn't score again, and we're going to have an issue with scoring. And I'm sure we'll come on to it, but strikers we have at the club, or strikers who are leaving, I think it's going to be a tough one. So obviously first game, so I don't want to judge it, and it's not a big game, but would have been a bit nicer if we'd got the win, eased a few nerves.
Poz?
There's not much point asking me, Matt, to be fair, because I didn't watch it.
Neil?
I saw a result, and we've not got a great history in League Cup, have we? We seem to get knocked out every season, so it was no great surprise. And to be fair, you got the vibe from the club that they were actually going to use it more as another pre-season friendly rather than a serious competition. So in some respects, I wasn't surprised that we didn't win. In saying that, when you look at Rochdale's preparation, I think that was their first actual 90-minute game, either friendly or competitive, from March, which doesn't bode well. All right, you look at our team, and there were only a couple missing really from what might be starting on Saturday. So in that respect, looking at it just as a purely result and, not taking into account how we actually played, you'd be thinking, well, all right, yeah, we classed it as a friendly, but, we should be able to still, move past Rochdale in that sort of competition, given their circumstances as well as ours, really. So a little bit disappointing, to be fair.
It was disappointing for me because the first 2 games, obviously, it's been a weird pre-season, hasn't it? I mean, Bradford haven't played a game as long as Rochdale, maybe even less. Manchester United kind of juniors was weird, but you could see a little bit of a stamp and a little bit of an identity and some nice football. But always in the back of my mind was we hadn't really kind of played a decent opposition, and I were thinking that'll probably come against Norwich. But I think worrying thing for me is they were organised. This is a team that stayed up by the skin of the teeth, limited team, but they pressed us. And I thought that style that we saw in them first 2 friendlies disappeared, especially in the second half. And we ended up in a bit of a rabble, to be honest with you. And again, the worst thing was we conceded a goal so similar to last season, which was, again, frustrating, a set piece. And yeah, the club kind of seems to be bringing this, it was a friendly game and what have you and stuff. But it wasn't really. It was a proper game, and not much that looked like it had changed from a kind of not taking any chances and conceding a set piece. I kind of turned it off at 10-5 last Saturday, a bit down really, because I was buoyed by them 2 games and the youngsters, but in the back of my mind, I just thought, because we're not playing anyone yet and it's easy, and as soon as we've come up against someone decent, I thought it were like back to square one. Maybe I'm being harsh. I don't know what you think, Neil.
Not harsh at all. I think we beat a non-league looking Bradford. A bit of a struggle. We didn't even beat. We drew in Man U under 23s, who then went and lost 5-0 at Doncaster. Don't want to read too much into that, but pre-season results can be odd. And I do see the Rochdale one as a pre-season game. But on the flip side of that, it was actually a cup competition. I was surprised at the lineup we did put out. I appreciate that the so-called first team trained a rigorous training session that morning. I think personally I'd like to see them training in a game scenario so we could all get a bit of an idea as to what the team might be, what the pluses might be, because let's be fair, the pluses have been rather sparse over the last sort of 2 years or so, haven't they? And I think that's been kind. So I would have liked to see a bit more. The worry for me was that, we saw some pretty football against Bradford and against Man U. Still managed to let 4 in across those 2 games. Big concern. And the Rochdale one, it was like already been sort of found out a little bit, maybe, which is a worry against a Rochdale team that had kicked the ball for 6 months. So let's not. I don't want to go too overboard about it. It's gone. We're out. It's done. But I'll be honest, it has put a little bit more worry on looking at playing a team that went Premier League last season on Saturday.
Bill, a couple of things I'd noticed from the game, and maybe if you could talk us through bits of it, but a very high defensive line for us. We've got a bit of an aging back line, but Ramoni Critchlow came in and did pretty well for me. A couple of little moments here and there, but overall, a bright future hopefully. Ben Hamer as well in goal. We've got Ben back in goal. We'll come on to we'll discuss the goalkeeping department shortly as well. Town though did miss 2 easy chances for me. Toffolo from the corner and Bakuna, maybe not easy, but presentable chances maybe where they changed the face of the game, so to speak, don't they? And all of a sudden a team a little bit unsure of itself, maybe not the most confident. That goal just changes and maybe sparks things, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Like I say, going back to it, it's pre-season, so the games in pre-season, it's hard to read from going forward into the season. I've been quite impressed. I missed the game against Rochdale, but I've been quite impressed with a couple of small things. Moving the ball a bit quicker, a lot quicker. And the number of bodies that we're getting into the box now. I mean, I've been reading Twitter today about Mooney leaving, and a lot of fans saying, we've let him down, we've not put enough balls into the box. He's literally been the only person in the box at times. And going forward, hopefully now this new manager is going to start bringing in this mentality. Let's get some bodies in and let's work out what's going to happen and try and pick some pieces up. I am slightly worried about the defence still. I just think it's too easy to get at us. This high line, we seem to, even last year, that there wasn't that much of a high line, but we were still getting beaten behind Toffolo and Schindler in the corner of the pitch. And I just think it needs to be readdressed. I think Critchlow looks decent. I'm going to hold my hands up here. I went for a KFC with my kids during lockdown, and I watched a little bit of training. And he looked really good. It was a little bit of phase of play they were doing on the pitch. Danny Schofield were there with a few others, and it looked really interesting what they were doing. So it looks like they're putting a lot of trust in the young lad. He played alongside Schindler, so hopefully going forward we'll get somewhere at the back. But I think that's my biggest concern really at the moment.
Straight ball, straight through the middle, isn't it? So if nobody's got anything else on the Rochdale game, obviously it wasn't a thriller, so we can move on quite quickly and do the preview. But I will read out some comments if we've got some from YouTube. So Josh Phillips has said some bright signs in the first half, but once the Rochdale goal went in, we reverted to type with slow build-up play and no chances created, and we have to be a bit braver on the ball, which I'd concur with personally. Tom Asquith said, bad loss to Rochdale, stick a game, still should have beat them regardless. We need to start bringing players in. Craig Chadwick says he's happy with Rochdale, was expecting losing 3 or 4. Phil Marston says Rochdale were better than us. Fair play to them. I'm seriously concerned to our squad. Just look at the sheer number of players who have left and not been replaced. And Ross Liversidge says we never do well in the cup anyway. So we'll move on a little bit then and have a look at this forthcoming season. So Carlos Corbrand's been here a little while now. The style of play in the 2 friendlies in the Rochdale game looks an improvement from an aesthetic point of view, we could say. There's a couple of little things I've noticed, just little bits here and there about how they overload in that sort of half space out wide. You know, both central midfielders move over, you know, Pritchard, Ben Jackson in the last game, and both wide men actually get forward. So Aaron wrote right back in support and Karoma bombs on. It's quite a good way of getting in behind, which is goes to what you were saying as well, Phil. But, you know, he's not really been able to build his own squad. So in terms of out so far, so it's quite a long list of players that have left from last season who've played first team. So very quickly, for anybody who doesn't know, the players that have left are Joel Coleman, Kachunga, Bockhorn, Stankovic, Sobi Kwana, Danny Simpson, Chris Willock, Andy King, Emil Smith-Rowe, Garbara, Chalaba, Lossell, Reece Brown on loan, and Steve Mounier, with Carlan Grant and Hadjinai maybe leaving sometime soon, which will take it to 17. But as you quite rightly pointed out on Twitter, Neil, if you count the loss at the loans out, you've got to count them back in. So back in, we've got Mbenza, Diakabi, and Congolo, as well as Danny Ward. Pippa, I don't know, Rowdy Piper, how are we pronouncing this? And Joel Pereira as well, who's coming on loan. So if we have a look through the squad, and I'd be interested to know your take, Phil, on the goalkeeping situation as well. Ben Hamer's not done very well in his Premier League. You're wincing a little bit, I apologise. But Ben Hamer's not done particularly well for us in the Premier League. He's had a bit of a confidence issues. He's not played for a long time, which is one of the main things since maybe Charlton. He's not really played regularly. Personally, I thought once Ryan Schofield got injured, I thought Ryan Schofield would be, or Ben Hamer would be used as kind of like a make weight for Ryan Schofield to be blooded, you know, in and out, dipped in and out, and he'd be the number 1 keeper going in. But as soon as he broke his thumb and he's going to be out for a while, I thought maybe Town should have, instead of gone out and got what seems to be a number 2 in Joel Pereira, maybe should have gone out and got a number 1. How do you see that goalkeeping situation at the moment? And do you also still have your gloves and boots? That could be another question.
My back, what? Not a chance, no. No. I just think Lossell was brilliant. So looking at Lossell, that type of goalkeeper, that's what we need. I think this season, if we're going to play young kids, it's going to be a difficult season. I think we need some experience back there. Hamer should be the experience. So the lad's played at a good level. He's been involved in Premiership football. I'm not sure how well he did last year at Derby. It'd be interesting to see what their fans think of him. But from what I've seen, it makes a lot of mistakes. Is that confidence? I'm not sure. I don't know the kid. So for me, it was a good time for Ryan maybe to step in and to see what he's made of. obviously his injuries come about at a wrong time for him. But the signing of Pereira again kind of shocked me. He's a number 3 at Man United, well, even lower than that now. He played last year and came back with some poor reviews from the team that he was at. But again, you've got to trust in the people who are bringing these players in. I'm sure the goalie coach at Huddersfield should be having a big say in it. A lot of the decisions should really come down to him for what they're looking for. But again, I still think we're short in that area. I think that's an area where we are short in. Hopefully, one of them stands up, takes the number 1 jersey and keeps it and does well. But we need someone confident behind that back 4.
I think the biggest concern for me there, you bang on everything that you've said, Phil, bang on. But I think the thing that would concern me is we've got a manager in who wants to play complete, total football, starting from goalkeeper. I mean, we've seen how they've set up with our dead balls. We've got 2 or 3 defenders still in the penalty area waiting to receive a pass. So that's why we're looking to play. And he just ain't good enough for that.
Have we got anyone ready to stop the corners, Neil?
Well, but if you look at other stuff, it's like you'd think empty ground, less pressure because you're not going to have crowd on your back straight away. But then he goes and does that against Man U in that friendly, and you think there's no deep ground, there's no pressure on you. You know, this is a chance to try and get a few people to back you, and you do that, and any hope you've got is just extinguished straight away, and it is a no from me.
I'm not a massive fan of this way of playing out from the back, putting all that pressure on the goalkeeper. Though. I think you've got to imagine a centre midfielder might give it away a fair few times in the game, and he's got a back 4 and the goalkeeper behind him to look after him. That keeper there is under a lot of pressure to try and play that game. And goalkeepers are goalkeepers. If we're thinking they should be great with their feet. There's only a couple of goalkeepers really in the Premiership that can deal with that kind of football. But he's going to be drilled into the way of playing. I just think we need to be a little bit more careful in the approach of getting out of the area instead of putting all that pressure on the back 4.
Getting out a bit would be a start, wouldn't it?
Do you know what I mean? So it's the way he wants to play. If the manager wants to play that way, then the goalkeepers are going to have to play that way with their feet. They're going to have to.
Phil, as a goalkeeper to a goalkeeper, did you feel for him that Man United? I mean, it was awful. There's just no hiding place now, is there? Because Twitter's always got videos on it. Things are different, aren't they? That probably wouldn't have even got any footage about 5 years ago, but now everything's on a video, and it was doing the rounds. As a kind of a human, I kind of felt a little bit sorry for him, even though a lot of people were absolutely slaughtering him. But it just felt such a big moment in his town career that he had the shirt number 1, and it's only a friendly. But
there's videos circulating from early 2000s still of goalkeepers. One of them against Darlington. So I don't feel sorry for anybody because I've had it myself.
Is that Betamax, Phil?
What happened, Phil?
Is it on Betamax, Phil?
If you weren't there, you're not a proper fan.
I saw it. I'm glossing over it. Don't worry.
I think Phil makes a good point though in what he's saying about the way that we want to play this total football and stuff like that. But you're almost setting someone like Hamer up to fail. I think I'd said on not just about Hamer, but previously about like Diakabis, your Benzes and stuff like that. They're not flavour of the month or flavour of the season or flavour of anything really with town fans. And if you're asking them to do a job that they can't do, you're almost adding extra pressure to them because they know that every song they could go out and do 5 games and be 10 out of 10, and then in 6 games he does something like that, and all of a sudden it's we're back to typical old Ben Hamer and his rubbish and his crap and all that. And that's why I think that's why we need to get rid of these players, not just not play them. They need to be shipped out as best we can. We might be trying, I don't know, but any little mistake that not just Hamer, but these players historically who people deem not to be very good are going to get they're going to get scrutinised, and they're going to blow up bigger than what they would be if it were a brand new keeper. And another point whilst we're on keepers as well, for me, it's if you've got a very inexperienced team, your keeper really is. He obviously is the last line of defence, and you need someone in there who, as a young centre half, if you make a mistake, you've actually got a bit of confidence in guy behind you that, you know what, if I make a mistake, he might be able to get me out of it. And if you haven't got that confidence in that, there's even more pressure on you as a centre half or anywhere along back four, that you can't really make that mistake, because if it's past you, it's in net because your keeper's that bad. And over the last few years at Town, all right, yeah, we had Lossell, but I think probably since Smithies, we've not really had a keeper that's played, correct me if I'm wrong, but I had a quick look, and who's played 3, 4, 5 seasons, and that used to be historically a keeper came in and basically played until they're either sold or retired. And we don't seem to invest in keepers. We bring these young keepers in on loan from other clubs. We had Grubara, who wasn't that great. Danny Ward did a good job, and now we've got another.
He'd have been perfect for me.
We need to be spending a decent money and getting a number one in who can play, and also bring on the likes of like your Schofield and stuff like that. At the moment, it just you can get away with it outfield, bringing players in for 12 months, but the keeper really should be the rock of the side. And
when you talk about building confidence, Poz, spot on, and we are hanging him out to dry a bit with how we're going to play, to be fair, because he just isn't built. He's not built for that, is he?
It's going to happen. It's going to happen, isn't it? And then people
100% right. But I think that's one of the reasons why I was surprised at team against Rochdale, because we've been, let's be honest, we've been devoid of wins for a long time, haven't we? It's not something we go and think it's going to happen on a too regular basis. And I'm not saying we should be just rocking up and beating teams like Rochdale, because obviously we've had those insults thrown at us in past. But for me, in that game, it's a real chance to put out your strongest possible side. And I don't think you can undervalue what a win in that game would have done for us as a club. Because already you're straight through, before the season's really started, you're through to the next round of a cup.
Yeah.
I think looking at it, Rochdale have got Sheffield Wednesday at home in the next round. So you've got a decent draw in the next round, chance to progress again. And
who would you have had in then, Neil? Who's to bring in? Would you have played Grant and Mooney then, or what? Who would you? I'm trying to think who you'd have in.
For me, I know you're looking. You don't want these players to get injured because they're possibly going to move this and other. But you've got to play they're still getting paid by us. You've got to play your strongest side. Grant's still here. He's not gone yet. So, and if we are going to be looking at Diakabi and Benz and what have you playing, start them. Let's see them from the start. Let's not rely on some of these kids. Looking at it, are really good. They're really good. I don't think there's any doubt about that. But we've got to be careful how we use them. We can't throw too many in one go, because we could actually ruin the future rather than play with it at the moment.
Yeah, I don't know about you lads with the goalkeeper situation, but I feel like there's some points made, and with obviously Hamer's made a lot of mistakes in his Town career, and he wasn't that good at Derby last season. I think we should start this Joel Pereira lad. Like, I know he didn't have a good season at Hearts according to their fans, but for me, looking at the options, Schofield's out at the moment. I think just give him a start. He's got a clean slate here, really, and if he doesn't do the job, then you can swap him. But he for me, he's got a clean slate. We don't know what he's like. Put him in the system, see how he does. I said to you, Matt, and I agree with Bozza. Like, I still, for me, it says, I wanted a number one, and I want someone that's going to be there for 4 or 5 years. And I said to you about that Dylan Phillips lad from Charlton, because he said the most shots in the Championship last season. He won their Player of the Season. And, Charlton are in a bit of a mess, and we could pick him up for cheap. And, he's young, he's 25, and he could be a goalkeeper for the next 10 years, and you could have him in Schofield. But, it doesn't seem like it's a good priority area for us. So, which is a shame, and I think it's wrong. So for me, I'd start Pereira and just see how it gets on.
I think what were interesting, Brady, were like when the kit reveal was revealed, there was more talk on the fact that Hamer was there with the number one, obviously, the shirt and the shirt on, rather than the shirts themselves. There seemed to be quite a lot of shock, and I can kind of see it, new manager, clean slate, etc. But so that's why it was really disturbing to see what, I think in that Bradford game, it would a bit like there were 1 or 2 moments, obviously the Man United, but then I'm just thinking, well, hang on a minute, if you drop him after that and then put Pereira in, for me, Pereira should be probably the number one anyway, but that's going to absolutely destroy him once and for all, innit? So I could kind of see why he went for it. And I think it was more Schindler's fault, really, with the goal than Hamer on Saturday. But it's a weak spot for us, and we haven't addressed it, have we? I don't think.
No, the future of Portuguese goalkeeping was what Pereira's once described as by Jose Mourinho. So there you go. But apparently he's had a tough transition from kids football or under 21s, 23s football to men's football. So supposedly excellent with his feet as well. So
we were also described as a man with poppadoms from Hearts fans last year. So
just spaghetti fingers as well was another name they called.
Phil, it must be freezing in Scotland and that. You know how warm it is at that John Smith Stadium studying that goalie. That might temperature you might warm to that, man.
Pitch because he's got no excuse to keep warm.
No, at least he's got a nice batsman fire. Norwich ain't got many forward players that can hurt. So.
Let's move on to defensively then. So there's not a lot of change obviously throughout the squad, but a new right back in. So obviously we have a Spanish correspondent amongst the group, don't we? So Kosi, Spanish under-21 international, a couple of games in the Europa League last year for, I presume it's pronounced Pipa, isn't it? So which is a little bit unfortunate around these parts because it can mean something else. But he's, to me, I think it looks quite a promising signing, does this? And it's the kind of one that we like to see, you know, with a lot of growth potential and supposedly a bit of a Spanish Jack Hunt by, I had to be careful how you pronounce that. But
yeah, well, interesting.
Just that kind of style.
Chatting to a couple of people who kind of know a little bit more about Espanyol, and they were saying that they were frustrated last year. They didn't get more chances, but they had 4 coaches last year, and it was a bit carnage really in the end. Ironically, when he did play, they were terrible. They finished the bottom of the first team, but they did keep quite a few clean sheets. He does like to get forward, and I think the coaches were kind of wondering how much defensive work he can do, but it'll be interesting because Toffolo's exactly the same, isn't he? Really, I'd say he's more of a kind of a forward kind of fullback really than a defensive one. But yeah, you can't be a mug if you play for Spanish under 21 side. They're not probably as good as they were made 2-3 years ago. But it's an interesting signing. But again, the worry is it's Championship. There ain't really time for him to bed in. We need him to hit the ground running. He's not played much first team football. I think that's just the worry. It wouldn't be so bad if we had like an experienced, I don't know, not a Danny Simpson again, but maybe another experienced fullback and him kind of learning his trade and kind of maybe being a backup. But I just look at this guy and thinking, mate, good luck because you've got to adjust to Championship football and need to hit the ground running very quickly because we've got no one else.
Neil, you mentioned that some of those young players are pretty good, and one player that's probably stood out during pre-season is Aaron Rowe. Who thought that a left-footed winger could play right back, eh?
He has looked good, hasn't he? He's looked like he wants it. He doesn't look as overawed as he did when he was chucked into the Premier League. But looking back now, that Premier League experience probably done him a bit of good. But yeah, to be a few for me, Aaron Rowe's done all right. Crickstow's done okay. Really like the look of Osterfield when he's played. Looks a tidy player. Ben Jackson's done okay as well. I think the one disappointment is we haven't seen enough of Matty Daly again yet.
Where does Duane fit into it?
He doesn't, does he? If we're being honest, we haven't
choice, isn't he?
Yeah, it's. I think you'll probably see him go out on loan. To be fair, but I think Aaron Rowe's put in a decent claim there. They've clearly signed this lad from Espanyol to come in and be number one, haven't they? At right back. So, but yeah, a few of them. But Osterfield looks a tidy player. But my fear is obviously I don't want them all chucking in at once because we could kill them.
Poz, you were a former centre back, a big, as I think you once told me, a big ugly centre back, or maybe your manager at the time told me you were a big ugly centre back who'd stick his head in a cement mixer or look like he had. So that's a former manager comment on you, I think, is that one. But let us know about, because this back line is obviously going to be very different from when Danny Cowley was manager. So the way that it looks like it's going to work is they're going to split the number 6, Josh Osterfield, as mentioned by Neil, or Hogg in the last game. The 6 is going to drop in possession. He's going to drop in between the 3 and try and dictate from deep. Like I say, you've played centre back before. How have you played in such a system? How difficult is that? And what do you think of the back line itself? And again, do you have your boots ready as well?
Boots are always ready, mate. I'm always ready for the job. No, at my level of football, it never got that technical. You were lucky just to get 11 on pitch and have a game. So I won't know too much about that. But I was doing a bit of coaching and stuff like that. Obviously, you look at systems that professional teams play and try and adapt them into your, players that you're coaching and stuff. And I quite like the idea of, if we are going to press on from full-backs, almost play them as wing-backs, for the 6 to drop in and as you say, split that 6 needs to be almost play like a quarterback, I suppose, if you want to compare it to American football. Receive the ball and look to start things off from there. As a defence as a whole, I certainly wouldn't have Jonathan Ogg doing that role, dropping in and collecting it, because I don't think he's good enough. His passing ability is not good, so that needs to be somebody different. I think we started at Bradford, and it looked to me as if Pritchard was sort of playing in that little role. He certainly was dropping a lot deeper than he used to do. So maybe that's an idea. He's not massive. He's not physically strong, so he could fit into that. Can he start, dictating the play from deeper rather than being, bustled and hustled by, burly centre halves and stuff. But coming back to our defence, Schindler, obviously a bit of an hero with his time at Town. Last season, he did look to be past his best, slightly. Is that half a yard slower? We've mentioned already tonight that, the high line, if your team's getting back in behind us, we haven't got the pace to recover. Apart from Schindler, you've got Elphick and Stearman. Obviously, Elphick, both again experienced, but also old. No offence, lads. I'm sure he's still younger than me. But
also, they won't be able to suit. They're not able to suit the football. That it's scary. Why did we sign Elphick on a huge deal? Stearman as well. I know we were a bit desperate with Stearman because we were sinking fast, but some horrible business done there, and we're lumbered with these guys now.
Yeah, I agree. They're not the sort of players that I'd want receiving it off at keeper in the in their own 18-yard box from a dead ball. The more I'd class as an old school centre half, where they will kick, push, head, and that's done well. That's how they've made their career. But I wouldn't have them down as what I'd class as a ball playing centre half within this system. We've talked about the right back, the new guy, and Toffolo getting forward. I think they're really good at doing that. But if they're going forward, you've got to rely on either your 6 to drop deep to make the third centre half, or you've got to have confidence in your 2 centre halves to be able to mop it up. We've got a couple of young lads. Is it Osterfield who's played centre half a couple of times? He's looked decent, but again, he's only young. It's a massive step up. To me, the centre halves are a concern. They're right in the middle of the pitch, obviously. To me, the spine of the team in where we're going needs to be as strong as it can be. And actually, when you look at your keeper and your 2 in front of him, actually now you're looking at that maybe being the weakest area. Which
can Schindler come back, Poz? I'm amazed he's still here. I was stunned. I thought he'd be picked up. It worried me what I saw last week, but he's hardly had any game time, so maybe forgive him that. But can he get back to anything like? I just feel we need probably 1, maybe 2 CBs and fast.
Looking, like I said, for everything he's done for the club and stuff like that, you can't deny that he's been a great player. But we mentioned it a couple of times on this podcast about last season. He's not as good as he has been, and I think it is time for him to be replaced. I know that sounds harsh on him, but sentiment in football kind of has to go out the window sometimes, and this is one of them times, I think. And
even more so position wearing
to Germany, then that might be something that he's considering, and see out his career in his own country and go from there. But
I think one lad I mentioned with defence is Edmonds Green, who's obviously been injured, and he had a cracking season last season at Swindon on loan, didn't he?
Mm-hmm.
So I think he'd have been somewhere near to starting on Saturday. So he's a bit of a miss at the moment, but again, still a bit of an unknown quantity. But I'm with Kosi. We definitely need another one at least in there.
Yeah,
I think it depends how you want him to play. I think if you're playing a flat back 4 and your full backs stay close to your centre halves, Schindler's totally fine, Stearman fine, like you said before, typical centre half, Elphick fine. And balls into the box, then we should be okay. Last year, balls into the box, we're still conceding headers towards a goal from balls into the box, even with our big centre halves in. If we're going to play this way we're playing now, where your centre halves split, you need ball playing centre halves to actually play the ball out. Well, they're generally not the tallest of centre halves that you're going to find. Critchlow looks decent on the ball, so now we're going to again suffer balls into the box. Seen the highlights again the other day, balls into the box, fast ball bouncing around again. It just looks the same old. So it depends which direction the gaffer's going to go, to be honest. I just think if Schindler plays and Stearman at Elphick, they need more support from the full-backs. but we've got 2 full-backs now we're going to bomb on. So which way he's going to go, we don't know.
Support Brady seems like it'll come from the 6. For me, Stankovic would have been absolutely perfect to play that number 6 role, that drops into the 3 and then moves out into midfield and distributes. But obviously, it's not to be. How do you see the defence shaping up?
I think, I agree with the lads. I think it's an area we need to add another body. We need a more ball-playing centre-back. I think with Schindler, I agree with Poz. Like, he's had some tough times last season. And I just think it's because he's not really got a lot of competition. If you think about since we've signed him, he's played pretty much every game. And I think there's part of him that maybe needs a rest and maybe needs a bit of competition because, he's always one of the first names on the team sheet.
Makes Tommy Elphick fit.
Well, who knows? But this is it. But I think that Schindler, when he has been good, he is actually good at running forward with the ball and passing, playing it out. But again, we need a better centre back who can play the ball. I agree with Neil. I think the club and other podcasts have talked about Romani Edmonds Green and how well he did at Swindon. It was League Two, so it is a bit of a step up. But give him a chance. But I think we need another addition there. Someone who can play the ball out comfortably as well and support Schindler. But yeah, it's another problem area for me really, and we need bodies.
Midfield is the tastiest area. I think midfield is genuinely where we need the quality, especially going forward. We're set to lose Grant from the left. Janino Bakuna, a real let's call him a maverick player. I keep saying this to people and on another podcast. If you divide Janino Bakuna up into sort of 90 minutes, he spends 70 minutes, daisy watching, whereas 10 minutes of a game, he can look to be potentially the best player in the league. He's got unbelievable skill and ability at times, but rarely does he really show it. So I think one challenge for Corberan will be to try and get a consistent 30, 40 minutes every week or two out of Janino Bakuna. And I think if he does that, we'll have some player in there. And he seems to have started on the left lately, and I presume he'll move around a bit. But the most interesting, or one of the most interesting topics of discussion throughout is, like you've mentioned as well, Neil, is the clean slate that we are seeing now for people like Alex Pritchard, Isaac Mbenza, and Adama Diakabi. And the noises are, especially around Mbenza, that he's working incredibly hard to acclimatise back into Huddersfield, and he's taking it seriously. Obviously, he's got 12 months of a contract left, and if he doesn't do anything this year, he's not going to get much at the end of it. So obviously there's a carrot being dangled in front of him, and not to call him a donkey or anything. But
you'd be right.
Yeah. But what do you reckon to these 3 guys? Do you reckon, obviously Congolo, you can throw him in, but I would say Congolo is probably halfway down the road. But these 3 guys under a different manager, Pritchard seems to be a very sort of Corberan style player. He's obviously got that knee issue. Do you see any way back for any of these 3? So I'm going to throw this open to you guys to discuss. Do you see a way back for Alex Pritchard and Mbenza Diakabi? We're looking at sort of over 30 million quid there between 3, or around that figure for 3 players, and we've got 3 or 4 goals, couple of assists from these guys. It's not a good output, but we don't need to rake over that constantly.
It's pathetic, in it. Let's be honest.
Yeah,
there's no way around that. It is dreadful.
Any way back for them,
probably, it's a long road, isn't it?
I refuse to believe they can be as bad as what they're showing. They cannot.
Because you're looking at arguably the 3 monetary and attitude-wise worst signings we've ever made. When Pritchard came in, I think we're all pretty much universally thinking we've signed a cracking Championship player here.
Yeah.
We'd seen him shine at Brentford, we'd seen him do well at Norwich. All the talk for a long time before they came to us was how good Alex Pritchard is. I think we all joined in on it. Got him, and he's been absolutely woeful, if we're being honest. I think a knee problem's least of his worries, isn't it? And then you've got, well, then too. What can you say that hasn't already been said? They've been a disgrace. Is probably the kindest way to put it. On and off the pitch, looking at them. I think the best comment I've seen about Diakabi was from a Forest fan last year. It's like a greyhound chasing a balloon, and it's right, isn't it? It's right. I've seen nothing from Diakabi that tells us there's a player. And we should have known from his first touch, because he put his first touch into killing the bank from the corner.
Neil, I know what you're saying, mate, but we need one of these 2 to come good. We ain't got the money to throw about replacing these guys. We need it, mate.
But don't hang your hat on it. And to be honest, if one of them does come good, I'll be absolutely delighted because that, I mean, they're doing well for us as a football club. And let's be fair, that money they're getting, money that's being paid out on them, it's about bloody time they gave us something back.
Poz,
I'm certainly not hanging me out on it.
Poz, any chance of the big bucks being paid off any of them three?
In 12 months' time, Kosi, I reckon Poz is going to replace that Stewart shirt with an Mbenza one.
The most worrying thing for me is they've come into town. They've worked under 3 managers at town. Is it Jan, Wagner, and Cowley's? They've been out on loan, worked under managers at wherever they've been on loan, and wherever they've been on loan clearly don't want them because they've ended up back with us. So I don't really hold out any hope that a sort of inexperienced under 23 manager is going to be able to get the best out of him. As Neil says, if he does, happy days. All will not be forgiven because they've actually taken the piss out of our club for however long they've been here with how they've performed and their attitude and stuff like that. But at least it'll mean if they're playing well, the Huddersfield Town team and club will be at least getting some out of them. But if I'm being perfectly honest, I don't really include Pritchard in this as much, but Diakabi and Mbenza for me would be nowhere near. They wouldn't even be involved. Their attitude from what we've heard, how they've acted and everything like that, there's absolutely no way they'd be anywhere near the club, let alone bloody first team. I won't even let them back training. I'd have just said, you know what, lads, you've got a year left, do whatever you want, and that end of it, good luck finding somewhere else, because we certainly won't be recommending you to anybody where that you've been. Pritchard, as Neil says, we've actually seen something from him when he's been at previous clubs, where he had a world's longest knee injury for a boil, I think it was, which seemed to take longer than any other boil to recover, which kept him out for a while, which seemed a little bit strange. But at least not at Town, but at other clubs, I've actually seen a little bit of quality out of him. So, I kind of give him a little bit more grace than the Chuckle brothers, shall we call them. But yeah, Pritchard maybe, other two, absolutely not for me.
Bill, your face is funny. I don't know what to read into it. Are you going to shock us here with your views?
I just want Mbenza to do. I think Mbenza's got something. Me, I said it last year, and I was like, really excited. 2 fast wingers, might shock. Diakabi's horrendous, isn't it? Absolutely horrendous. And it's nice to see that the Nottingham Forest fans were slating him as much as our fans, because our fans can get on people's back really quick. But so nice to see that Forest were thinking the same as us. I'm just hoping Mbenza's got a little bit. I really am. Pritchard. He's got everything, hasn't he? But he's shown nothing. He's shown absolutely nothing. And I'm sure he just frustrates every single fan, because you can see his technical ability is unbelievable. He can pick a pass out. He can score goals. His free kicks are good, but he's just not showing anything at all. So hopefully this manager can get something out of him. But like Dan said there, like there's 3 managers that some of them have been through. And some have been on loan and sent back. So there's obviously issues with him. You can tell Congolo there's an attitude there. You can tell Bakuna there's an issue there. You can tell, you can see it from the outside that there's been some toxic behaviour within the club. So, I don't know. It's one of those again. How many chances do you give him? People keep saying, oh, yeah, we're clean slate, we've got to give him a chance. Well, a couple of them had a couple of clean slates and they're still not showing anybody anything. So,
Phil, do you think Phil, if we'd have bought them for, say, 100 grand, 50 grand and 50 grand, I don't think they'd be anywhere near the first team now, would they?
I'd be saying sell them. Let's get rid. Do you know what I mean? You're trying to draw some blood out of them, and we just can't do it. It's not working. It's not working. I'm hoping Mbenza's going to be good this year.
It'd be great if he does. There'll be some great backtracking going on.
Can I just ask Phil? Obviously, being involved in football and stuff like that, you may or may not have experienced anything like what the attitude was from your Mbenza and Diakabi and stuff like that. But if you've been in and around that squad whilst they've been acting like that, trying your hardest, I'm thinking more like like your Schindlers and your Oggs and people that have been around whilst they've been around, basically. And then all of us, they've acted like they've acted, and then all of a sudden, you get another new manager and they get a clean slate. Would that not grate on those sort of seasoned professionals who've been there and tried and gone through it all? And these 2 guys who've acted the clown for, however long they've been with us, now all of a sudden get a clean start. Would that not upset the apple cart that way? Maybe, I don't know if it would or it won't. I don't know if you've been in that situation before. Or...
It's difficult. Football's such a strange sport. It's almost every man for themselves, kind of look after yourself, but at the same time, it's a team sport and you want the best for your team, because if your team aren't doing well, then you're not. For me, if they've tossed it off for 2 years and they come back and they have a blinding season the third year, I'm more than happy for them to come back and play.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, it's helping the team. For me, it's the before that, what's happened before that, and how the players responded. And like Kosi said, they're only here because they cost a lot of money. Some of those players might have gone by now. If that attitude's not there, then it's affecting the team, which I'm sure it has. Then they should have gone. But no, I think, like I say, clean slate for everybody. We had a season once, I'm not going to name names, but we had a season once when Mick Wadsworth turned up. And it were
the glory days.
And a lot of players got released because of administration. And a lot of players stayed who we probably looked and thought, maybe they shouldn't still be here, and other players have gone. It's just one of those, it's opinions, and everyone's got an opinion on the game, and Carlos will come in and see difference in other players that other managers won't do. So sometimes you just got to get on with it and see. But I think what you're saying is there, it's right, and I think it's more the attitude of the players, and if the players have been like they have, and the whisperings that I'm sure you a lot have heard and I've heard, you won't be happy.
Matt, are we going to move on to forwards? Because it reminds me the other night, I thought I had a couple of spare beers left in the fridge. I went in, there were none. I was devastated. It was empty, mate. And I just look at our forward line and think,
get yourself to Lidl, mate. I've got a stat here which I think you'll enjoy. It's not about beer though, I'm afraid.
It's about shopping.
Yeah, if I've got 27 beers and out of 52 or something. No, here we go. God. So last season, Carlin Grant and Steve Mounier contributed to 27
Danny
Ward, goals.
Danny, Ballon d'Or, man. Here we come.
Ballon Ward. So last season, Grant and Mounier contributed to 27 out of 52 goals and assisted in 6 of the remaining 25, which means the two guys who contributed directly and indirectly to over 63% of our entire goal haul of last season are now missing. And there are yet to be any signs of a replacement. Linked with a Spaniard again, Kosi, Javier Padro.
How shit was that from Carlin Grant yesterday, that tweet? It was shite. I'm sorry for my language. It was rubbish, that, wasn't it?
I thought Danny Cowley had logged in as in by mistake.
Rubbish though, mate. If you want to move, do it. Sort it behind the club's back.
Well, look at the difference between Carlin and Steve Mounier.
Rubbish, man. No need for that. Come and get me.
This is the issue with social media. Some of the rubbish that some of the players spout out, and you've got to remember about the fans as well at the same time. And I looked at that from Carlin Grant, and my opinion straight away was it's poor. Look at Mounier today, fantastic. As much stick that he's had from fans at times, or as hard as he's found it, he still loves the club. What a lovely message that he sent there. Two totally different people for me.
I'd love Steve on this podcast. I think he'd be amazing, especially if we give him, a little fire truck or something. We could get him as well, couldn't we?
But you know what? But you know what, though? Sorry, just to play devil's advocate. Me and Neil were talking before. 2 million, loads of goals, going to sell for a profit. Loads of millions, bugger all goals, disappears an era.
To be honest, I think one thing I'd say about Steve Mounier is that Steve Mounier in the first season in the Premier League, I think his goals contributed more than anyone to keeping us up. And you could say that Steve Mounier repaid his fee tenfold by the 9 goals he got that season. 13 points we got from Steve Mounier goals that season. So I think he gets a bit of a raw deal from some people for that first season. Second season, crap, no qualms. It wasn't good.
Matt, Wolves at home, mate. Did you leave early?
I didn't. I was there. I saw Yang going crazy on the touchline, and I was there when he banged that one in the top corner against Blackburn, which won the takes that chance goal of the season as well. Amazing.
Jan feels like an age ago, doesn't it?
Yeah. But yeah, I like the guy Steve Mounier. He leaves as a player with. I agree with people who say we didn't play to his strengths, but at the same time, he was quite one-dimensional at the same point. He does slow play down. He's not the greatest link player. In the box, he's deadly. We didn't get enough players around him. He didn't score enough goals either. But when you've got Mbenza, Diakabi and whatnot crossing the ball, it's always going to be a trough.
I've been waiting for this all day. I wish Steve all the best.
Way. I thought he got his Marston's order wrong at first, but there we go.
I wish him all the very best.
Jesus. Yeah.
What a boob. Hey.
I think, interesting point about Steve. I think Danny Ward, although it's not the most exciting signing, I think how many goals did Mooney get last season? Was it 8 or 9? I wouldn't be surprised if Danny Ward's playing more if he got something similar. But interesting one with Karlan Grant. Like you say, bought him for 2 million. He's going to go for about 18. He's not. It's clear he's just one of those players who moves from club to club. But I think, I wish him all the best because let's be honest,
we'd have gone down last year, wouldn't we, if it wasn't for Karlan Grant
last season.
Yeah.
What did you think of Danny Ward coming back? Phil, did you hear any rumours and stuff? It's a weird signing, that, isn't it? Totally out of the blue for me. And what can he? It's going to be. There's a lot of pressure on him, mate. Pressure on this guy this time, mate.
Would you say he's a similar kind of player to the way that Bamford plays? Bamford works really hard for Leeds.
I think there are similarities.
Yeah. So free agent. I wondered if it was, obviously the lads from round here. He's got a lot of friends in the area. I wonder if it was just a perfect fit for both. I've got no issues with him coming back. I think it's good.
We went to Cardiff and wanted Danny Ward. I don't believe that for a second. Who wanted him? Were he on his radar where Cowley's were here, or as Carlos wanted him? It just seems a really weird signing. To me, he's been at Cardiff. He wants to move back up to Yorkshire for personal projects or whatever reason, close to family or whatever.
Family, yeah.
And I think his agent's gone to numerous West Yorkshire clubs and said, look, he wants to move back up. He's on a free. Do you want him? I think it's been I think he's been touted to us rather than us going and looking and thinking, do you know what, Danny Ward would be a good player for town. And I think we are going to sell Grant. I don't think there'll be any doubt about that. I don't know. I think might take a couple of games into the season before he goes, but I do think he goes. And if Ward is the replacement, I've done a math and I'd look into his stats, and season 19-20, he scored 7 out of 28
goals per minute. That's what you want to look at, Poz. Yeah.
4 in 18, 16-17, 11 in 41, 15-16, 4 in 34, 14-15, 3 in 15. There is championship seasons. So it's a total of 29 in 136, which averages about 11 a season. So already he's 8 down on Grant before, And is he going to be a main goal scorer for us?
I'll ask you a question though, Poz. Do you think Danny Ward, I think it's a decent signing. It's all right. Do you look at him and think he's gonna play 46 games next season? And you look at the bench and there's Fraser Campbell, who's been injured for quite a long time, and Kean Harrott as well is probably the next one. In one of the game, I think Rochdale, we ended up with Karoma and Pritchard up front at one point as well. So to me, it looks a real weak area.
I think I spent more minutes on pitch last season than Campbell.
It can also come from Leeds. Leeds didn't have what I class as an out-and-out goal scorer. And, Phil's touched on him being a little bit like Bamford. They didn't have someone who scored 40 goals for him and got promoted. They shared their goals out. And, if we're going to play like that and that's the aim and everyone gets 10, then, fair enough. But I can't see anybody else getting 10. I looked and after the person behind that were Bakuna with 6.
Probably, yeah.
So where are we going to get the goals? Midfield's not against. We've got no one to score. I'm
not against Ward as a signing, to be fair. And I think
I'm not against him as a signing.
As much as Arts fans have absolutely slated Poppadoms who have signed, Cardiff fans have actually been pretty cheesed off that Danny Ward's gone. But that said, is Danny Ward, you just read out all them stats, and we've spoke about it before, haven't we? It's not Danny Ward ain't going to come and be the talisman, the man who's going to get you 15, 20 goals. And no. even if he did, he still need another 40 goals from somewhere, and that's just to stop up.
Yeah.
So it's a tall order to lose Mooney and Grant, 27 goals between them. If you're looking at progressing and not just try to tread water and stay above the dreaded dotted line at the bottom, you've got to get a lot more than that. So where is that coming from? You can't rely on 2 or 3 kids that are carrying from midfield, getting 6 or 7 each. We've spoke about the Chuckle brothers on wing. You can't see goals coming from them too, can you? Pritchard pre-Town, I'd have probably backed to maybe get 10. Pritchard, Wick-Town, you'd be lucky if you get 2. So a lot of goals to find there. And
we're in big.
Take some buys. We need some players in.
Neil, we're in massive trouble, mate.
Yeah, we are.
I think people look. I mean, I'm looking at a squad list, and there's quite well. When you look at the actual list and look at the numbers aren't that bad. But when you actually then look at the players and who you'd actually pick, as they would make a first 11, and actually being generous with a couple of them, you've only got about 14, 15 that you'd look at and think, if that were first 11 today, I'd think, well, I don't think we'd win, but you'd be all right with it. Take 3 or 4 of them out, and you're looking and thinking, God, we'll be lucky to not concede 4 or 5 here today.
Possibly, we were gashed last year. We've lost 62% of his goals. What's the plan? Danny Ward?
Yeah, pause.
No idea, man. I've no idea. Do you know what? Again, we've won our last 122 games in league, I think it is. We've won 25. And I think that's why we're all a little bit like we are, because we've had so many games where we're getting beat. And,
also, I don't like your stats. Oh, God, I've changed. I don't like your stats, Poz.
No, I'm trying. People go, it's been negative and negative. It's just realism. There's no point. You see people on Twitter saying, "Oh, you never know, you never know." And all right, you never know. And you don't. Do you look at that season when we got promoted? You would have never predicted that. But going into this season, we might come on to the sort of predictions in a minute, I'm sure. But I just don't hold out any hope whatsoever. And I'm not normally like that. I'll be honest. I'm not going to say that we're an happy clapper, but I'm normally glass at least half full. And at the moment, I'm like, it's dripping in. It's just dripping in.
I've dropped mine, and it's
the more it
gone.
It drips in a bit, and then something happens, and I throw it out because
leak,
I just think, what on earth is? I don't know. It's so bad.
Matt, what people say, Matt? There's going to be more positivity out there.
There was one point that I wanted to make, but I'll make it very quickly, and it was looking at Leeds United when Bielsa first came in there, and I don't want to look at that too long, but they suffered a large amount of soft tissue and muscle injuries as well as they transitioned from a lesser sort of intense fitness regime to a more intense one. And we've brought back the double sessions and whatnot with Cobran and the 2 coaches. And that's also something to consider as well, is that we will get soft tissue injuries. It's happening already as people try and keep up with the intense, training, which on the plus side, we've only played 2 friendlies as well, but the match training should actually keep us in good stead. But the leap from EPPP, Cat 4 and non-league loans is also massive. But for me, the squad is too small. But we will go to YouTube, where I did ask a couple of questions on it. We've got loads going on. Right, so thank you to the 75 that are currently watching as well. So, so Tom Asquith says a new keeper, 2 or 3 strikers, 2 more defenders. Quite a couple here saying central defenders. Will 2005. Phil Marston thinks Hamer's a weak link. Smile a while, Zine says great to see Phil Senior on the panel. So there you go, another fan there, Phil. Paul McNamee says, where are the goals coming from when Grant goes? Lossell, great keeper. Bring back Smithies, says Craig Chadwick. There's a lot of talk going on about the goalkeeper here. Josh Phillips says, playing out from the back.
Is that because we need one?
Yeah, and CDM need to be safe and brave in possession. Hamer and Hogg don't fit the bill. Reinforcements required. So Neil Wayne is also talking in the YouTube group as well. Pete Collins says Rochdale defeat was not the fault of Ben Hamer. Give him a chance, lads. Kosi, you mentioned that Schindler probably more at fault for the goal than what Ben Hamer was. And Neil's Neil, you're all over this chat. What's going on? So Brighouse Town are enjoying your background. So thanks to everybody. Dag Barnett as well. Sad fact is we're hoping that players that are either past the best or shown 4/5 of nothing or promising kids do better than last year. So Neil is definitely. Do you know what, Neil? I'm going to make you a moderator of this because you're absolutely all over it. There you go, mate. You're moderating the YouTube chat now. So this coming season.
Off now.
So this coming season starts with 2020. So let's hear the vision. So I've done a bit of a Kosi joke there. So how do you predict this season will start? Will go for Town essentially. So we've already talked in depth about what we're going on. So for me, I'll go first, and then you guys can work up to it. So I think we'll start poorly. We've already started poorly, really, with Rochdale, but I think with the run that we're on, we'll start poorly. A lot of injuries as players adjust to the training regime. But I also think the intense training will help a lot of players, and I think we will see players gradually improve, and those that don't will be gone. A high backline will probably mean Stearman and Elphick will be long gone or very rarely needed. Schindler, I think, maybe phased out over the next 6 to 12 months for Romani Edmonds Green. I think it might be a bit of a farewell season for Schindler. His contract is up next year, but there's a lot of love for him from me and a lot of Town fans. Like I say, the noises about Mbenza are encouraging. Congolo aspect will be gone. I think a couple of defeats early might bump us into action maybe in the transfer market. And I think once we get a clear picture of where we're at in 4 weeks after the transfer deadline, and providing we do strengthen in those attacking positions and get some cutting edge, which is vastly needed, I hope that will be okay. And it's very much a transitional season. My prediction, Huddersfield Town to finish 20th. And that's my heart saying that. So who wants to go next?
I'll go next. I kind of agree with you, Matt. I think it's a bit of a tricky not to stick up for the club because there's a lot of things we can criticise for him. But the one thing I will say is it's a bit of a difficult transfer market. And obviously we've still got a month to go. And then there's obviously the window after. Me and Kosi and Neil were talking about it before. But I think there's a 2-week window after it shuts for domestic loans between the Premier League and the EFL. So we could even get more players there. I think it's a tough start. We all know that the first 5 games are a nightmare. Worst start you could possibly have. I think the tricky thing is they've got to back Corberan and, support him and give him time. But, I don't think it will be a Sievert. But you look what happens with Sievert. We had a terrible start and then it's catching up from there. And I think if the board, I know we spoke, you and the lads know about how I felt about the Cowleys and how I wanted them to go. And, we moved on, we got Corberan and backing him. But I think if he gets a bad start, we need to stick with him and the board needs to stick with him and give him what he needs. But I think the current squad, you can't expect youngsters to, 6 youngsters to come in and all be cracking. If we get one, that'd be amazing. I think it's going to be difficult. When I was being positive before Rochdale, I thought anywhere between kind of 12th and 17th. And I look at teams like Norwich, who, when they had Daniel Tharker, he didn't really click until the second season. To be honest, some fans wanted him out. But I just think, we've seen the same defensive issues. This club has suffered. I just think of the players as well. They've suffered so much mentally and the fatigue of that and, not winning any games and doing terribly. I just think it's still there in the club and hangs around. So I agree with you, Matt. I think it's going to be another long season. I think 20th or 21st. And
I think we'll see green shoots as we go along. I'm hopeful that we'll see a much. One thing I did forget to mention is I think we'll see a more exciting style, and providing that players don't get bogged down a little bit with it, like we did under Mark Robbins, then I think hopefully we'll look good. So Neil, I think you can come next. I can see you trying to hide from the screen there, so I'm going to pick on you.
Thanks. I think the one thing that will go in his favour this season is the level of unexpectation. I think everyone's sort of on the floor thinking it's a doomed season. So I think that might work in our favour. If you look at the early fixtures, they're not very kind, are they? But let's be honest. I think we'll probably finish second on Saturday against Norwich. But you never know.
Third.
Well, you never know. But looking at it, for me, we need to revisit this again when the transfer window's shut, because lots could change by then. As it stands at this moment in time, I'll be honest, I can't see out but bottom 3. I just think to lose all those goals out, and I'm normally really optimistic about it and looking forward to it and what have you, and I think it might be partly because I've no excitement going into it because I can't go on Saturday. It doesn't even feel like a new season starting. That obviously does play a part to the fans, but I struggle to see where we're going to win games because we haven't got anybody that's out and out creative. And people can say Pritchard all they want, but he hasn't shown me out in all the time he's been here, so I'm not hanging me out there. The Chuckle brothers, I'm not hanging me out there either because, well, all could happen. I'm feeling totally fed up with it all. I'll be honest, totally fed up with it all. And I just cannot see where goals are coming from. And at the end of the day, we didn't score that many last season, stayed up by the skin of his teeth, and we've just lost or about to lose 27 goals. So for me, as it stands, it's bottom three. And I don't like saying that.
That's your head rather than your heart you've gone with unlike
Yeah.
me.
Poz... Playoffs.
Yeah, heart says.
Right, they're bringing relegation ones back. I'll take it. We'll do it.
Go on, Poz. What about you?
Yeah, unfortunately, following on from Neil's prediction there, I just can't see it with a squad we've got. Yeah, all right. Transfer window's not shut yet, but the gaps in the squad are there for all to see. Why do we need to wait another few weeks? Do we need to sell? Have we got no money? Are we waiting for Grant to go to free up funds? Is that the hold up as it stands at the moment? If it is, fair enough. It is what it is. There'll be plenty of questions and comments, and asked about that. I'm sure if that is the case about why we're waiting for someone to be sold when we've just had all of this Premier League money over the last few years and all that. But that's another discussion. If we do bring players in 3-4 games into the season, it's a lot harder to recover games if you've lost your first 3 or 4. It's a lot harder to catch up points than it is to having one. The actual saving grace from this season may be clubs going into administration. It's not something that you like to see, but in this season as it stands, clubs losing points may do us some good.
Derby's 21-point appeal, isn't it, with the EFL, which will be an interesting one.
Again, as Neil says, with the squad as it stands, if you ask me now, we'd be very, very lucky to stay up, which is sad. I think the way the club's gone since we stayed up at Chelsea that night is quite honestly been a disgrace. The way that everything's been run since then, everything's just gone wrong. And it's really, really sad that we've thrown away a big chance to really establish ourselves as a top 30 club. If we do drop out of this league, I fully agree with what Brady said about the manager at the moment. We need to keep him. If we go 10-15 games in this season and we're bottom of the league and he gets sacked, then what's the hope we've got? That guy needs to, if he takes us down, he takes us down. As Neil says, there's not much expectation from what I see amongst fans for this season. So, is it a free hit for him almost this season? Can he take us down and learn from it and bed the youngsters in, give them some experience? We end up going down and then have a good season next season. That could be it. That could be, the shining light in this season. It could be used as a bit of a gimme to bring these players through and see what they're actually like at first team football. But as a prediction, as it stands, no, I'm sorry. I've got to say that I think we'll go down.
I need some positivity, so I'm going to go for.
Let me just add one more thing before you go on to everybody else's depressing views. I think the one thing, and I'm clutching at straws here, but the one thing that might work for us at home with all these lads coming back who the fans don't particularly like is there being no fans. The fact that they can actually play without having killed the bank screaming at them when they run ball into touch, etc. Might be opposite. I don't know. I'm clutching. Pass me some more straws and I'll clutch at some more straws. But yeah.
I know Kosi's not going to be particularly positive, I don't think, judging by the look in his face. So we'll go with Phil next. It's all on you, Phil, for a little bit of sunshine.
I know, yeah. I'm in agreement with the lads, to be fair, but I think we'll struggle. I think where we're at the moment, I think it'd be daft to say that we wouldn't, because we've let go of so many players. We need players in, loans. We need some good quality loans, if possible. We need to spend some money. We're obviously getting some money in. If we're going to sell Grant and we sell Mounier, Sobey, etc., we need to spend some of that money. I really would like to know what's going on inside the club. I know there's been discussions before, but something still doesn't sit right with me in terms of what's going on inside that club, in terms of where the money's going. But I just think there's a big positive in terms of the youngsters coming through. I think it's a chance. I think no one's expectations are there to do well. You can see that straight away with what everyone's predictions are. So hopefully, there might be a few surprises through the season. These young lads look quite promising. You've mentioned Daly before. I really like the look of Daly. Not seen enough of him. I think he looks a great player. Edmonds Green, obviously, he's done well in lower leagues. It doesn't mean he's not going to do well at this level. I think he will. Looks like that kind of player. I like the two fullbacks. Exciting, attacking. There's plenty of exciting things within the team. It's just getting that whole package. No one's spoken about O'Brien yet so far. He's a player to come back who was a strong player. So if we can keep hold of him, we just need to spend some money. We need a striker. We need a striker that's going to score some goals and to work around that. But after all that positivity in terms of youngsters, I can't see us going any higher than 20. I really can't. But who knows? I said we do well last year. I said Diakabi would be brilliant and Benzi would be brilliant. We're challenging for promotion. So maybe if I say we're going to go down for definite rock bottom, even lower than Wednesday, then we might do well.
We definitely need to revisit this when transfer window shut though.
Yeah, I think we'll do that. Like I said at the start, that we threw a caveat in, didn't we? So we'll have a revisit when the transfer window's shut. And my prediction or my hopes are based entirely on us being active towards the end. But a man who's always active is Richard Kosmala out in the Yorkshire Dales earlier today.
We're 8 chins, very active. Active buying pizzas, mate. But similar thing. It's frustrating for me because all of a sudden these youngsters are kind of burst onto the scene. But to me, they're just bonus players this season. I think expectations should be so low. I think if Cowley would have played some of them, blooded some of them last season, they might be even more ready to step up. But obviously, like Brady says, done to death and what have you, and we've got to move on. But it's frustration because I just think if we had a decent core, and we mentioned like their goalkeeper, real spine of our team, we haven't got a decent striker, we haven't got a decent goalkeeper, we haven't got a decent centre-half, we've got Lewis O'Brien. You know what? There could be something to be excited about, but they need help. These guys need help. I feel sorry for them. And it was really inspiring to see him, wasn't it, in that Bradford game and Matty Daly, all right, deflection and stuff. But we're weaker than we were last season and we only just stopped up. But it's just really weird all of a sudden that we're no like kids being played at all by Cowleys. I know we've done to death about, not chucking them in the deep end, but now all of a sudden we've got these kids coming through and I just hope I'd say the hype, but I just hope they can. The way the squad is at the moment, they've got to deliver a lot of these guys. I just think, can we get some help? Can they get some help in? And as good as Pippa's an interesting signing, but he's 22 as well, youth, but we need the right kind of experience as well. Because if you look at kind of Elphick's and Steamers, they're not going to kind of fit our style. So I think we'll scrape up. I think we'll get better as the season goes on. I agree with you, Matt. I think the first few games might force a hand a little bit with a sign-in, in a way that Stearman did, I think, kind of last season, and he was kind of big, I thought, for us staying up. But, yeah, I can feel the negative vibes and similar to, not being there on Saturday. It's just so weird, isn't it? First game, you've normally got your shirt, you're normally sun shining, you're heading down to Leeds Road, you're buzzing in town, a few sherbets. And again, it's just another game, and I follow in it. And did somebody say just eat? Unfortunately, they did. And, I think we'll finish 20th, but again, revisit it. But I can't blame anyone for feeling what is going on at the Still Champion, because I did a thing with Norwich City today for their newspaper. They had like kind of similar thing to this. And they were saying, what is going on at your club? You seem a club in absolute freefall. And, it would hard to argue, mate.
I think I listened to the not the Top 20 podcast.
It's very good, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, they had us down to the relegation. So it's not just it's like, because it says there, people from outside now are sort of picking up on how we are and how their tippings for relegation. That's not always a good thing. you're always probably a little bit more critical of your own club, but when other people start looking in and they're not holding out much hope, then it's kind of ring through a little bit, doesn't it?
To be fair to them as well, Poz, they predicted us for the playoffs and to go up in 16-17 as well when we did, and they were the only ones who did. So
I've done a poll though.
Don't
matter what we think. I've done a poll, and can you believe 2% said we'd finish between first and sixth? Now I don't know what.
I love that. I love the optimism.
7 to 12.
They must have been clicking that to see what results the other three options were.
7 to 12, 8%, 13 to 18, 42%, and I suppose no surprise, 48% think we're going to finish between 19th and 24th. But maybe we'll revisit the poll when the window slams shut, and hopefully them figures will improve. And we've smashed Norwich, we've to kick Brentford out of the new stadium and up the town.
Yeah, so I've got some predictions on YouTube as well, on the YouTube channel as well. Cos Smiler Wild say 18th. Tom Asquith says between 18th and 20th. Phil Marston says if we get the players in we need, I reckon 14th, if not 22nd. Richard Furnival, message retracted. I'm pretty sure he said 20th as well.
He said first.
I've grasped him. Nigel Goss says, agree with Neil, bottom three. Richard Furnival, there we go. Feels like we're going to score less and concede more, not looking great. Jacob Calvert says, Phil, got any tips from Boothie? I don't know what that means. Peter Swallow says,
tell me shut up.
Is this an in? Right, I see. Where is there no information coming out of the club considering there's so much discontent amongst fans? By Peter Swallow. Ross Liversidge says 18th to 17th. And Jacob Calvert definitely giving you some definitely one of your mates is that, Phil, saying that you couldn't look, says you need to look a little bit more interested.
Man,
someone loves you.
Information coming out of the club, it's 100%. Who's Sean Jarvis's replacement? What has he done? Who's a sponsor on our shirts? Who's a sponsor on our shorts? Nothing. I get it's tough times. We got nothing. Silence from everyone. It's just, I know we've had it good with Dean.
I know it's ruined my agenda here. Go on, Kosi, get ripped in. We'll come back to it. Go on, Kosi, get ripped in.
I've got so many questions.
Maybe we've been blessed in the past with a very open club and things, but at the moment, it's when we need in a kind of a bit of a leadership from. I mean, the club shop's opening tomorrow, isn't it? I mean, that sums up to me. It's probably the last shop in England that's reopening. It's all over the shop, at the moment. I think Sue Beaumont's gone and stuff. It's never been as quiet. It reminds me of the Davy era, 100%. And it's gutting because people are losing interest, and we've sold 8,000 season cards, which you can't blame anyone because we don't know if we're going to get back in. You're just paying for an iFollow at the moment. But it's gutting because, like Poz said, we had the platform. Never mind where we're going to play football. It's just it just feels like it's all slipping away. And Carlos is kind of exciting with his things, but just off the pitch, it just seems to be all over the place. I'm getting frustrated with a lot of our Twitter and stuff that's coming out. I knew it once we beat Bradford. They look at this worldly, bit of dribbling stuff. We're playing Bradford like we haven't played a game for 5 months and stuff. But it just, the
real funny thing with that though, where it said great start, and then immediately underneath it showed Bradford scoring it first minute.
They were unbelievable. And I thought it was shocking last week. Matt, you said it to us on a group. We'd lost at home to Rochdale. No matter what you think of friendly, it was a League Cup game. And Lewis O'Brien's doing a Twitch thing at 5.
I won't bother about that.
I'm sorry, Matt. No. Can you imagine the player of the season, right? At Real Madrid, Barcelona, Real Madrid, Barcelona, whatever. We've lost at home to a low league team in the cup. Can you imagine a player of the season at any other club being doing that 10 minutes after? No, rubbish, man. I'm sorry, Matt. I just it's little things like that that's just kind of winding me up. The club, it's so frustrating because we've lost some key figures at the club, and it seems at the moment people are meaning good things, but there's just stuff flying out. I mean, we saw when the stuff was released, you couldn't click on a video on the website. There was typos. What it said, Joe Pereira's re-signed Huddersfield Town. It's just little things like that. It's attention to detail.
I've got to say, Coddy, and I know you're having a rant, but I made some notes earlier, and that bottom bit there is basically a lot of stuff like you said. I think the sorry, Matt, if we're going on to off your little agenda here, but
no, go for it.
Look, the club is nothing like it were a few years ago. Everything's everything's just done on cheap or on fly. You mentioned social media. That's one I think is really, really poor. Maybe I'm as a 35-year-old, maybe I'm not the target audience for Huddersfield Town social media anywhere, but, my striker, my midfielder, and all this sort of, with a little funny video and stuff like that, it's not for me, all that sort of stuff. The kit were revealed by some Turkish 6-year-old before the club put it out. I mean, how pathetic's that? There were a lot of noise when Carlos came in, the new direction and all that. Everybody seemed to.
Yeah, there was no interview with him for ages, and that was a bit weird, wasn't it? Because that's when you want to know more, isn't it? When you say, right, we've got Carlos Coburn. Nothing for a while. It's like
everyone were literally singing from the same hymn street. It was almost like they all had a script to read, and it were right, read this out and look excited about it all. There's been questions about Canal Side when that were, is that being completed? There seems to be a nice little gate that's been put on there and a little gatehouse and stuff. All right, yeah, they might have had to scale it down, but there's now questions being asked about that, and there's just no communication. And wherever there's no answers being, given to questions that are being asked, people will make up the answer, whether it be right or wrong. And I think Kosi's really, has hit the nail on the head there. That the communication coming out of the club at the moment regarding a lot of things is really poor, to be honest. And
I think we got used to. I mean, Sean Jarvis were particularly good at engaging with fans and getting a lot of stuff out there. And this new guy has come in.
He overshared sometimes.
Yeah, probably. But you knew, and you know full well now when there's no sponsors knocking about on shorts and whatever else and this and other. You know full well now that he'd be braying social media to death to try and get a bit of backing, and would have probably got some. Whereas this new guy, he hadn't done a thing publicly yet. This is a commercial manager trying to get commercial revenue. He's not done one thing publicly. Get on and do a video on club website.
I think he did one at the start, but it wasn't very.
Get requesting to Radio Leeds to Johnny and that. Get on Radio Leeds and have 10 minutes on there on one of the West Yorkshire Sport Daily things with Matty Glennon and what have you. Get on there and put a shout out to local businesses. Get out there, put a shout out to fans. Engage. Let us know who you are.
Neil,
you know what you're about.
Neil, without naming any names, you know quite a few people in local business, kind of with their jobs and the stuff you do, and a lot of people are disillusioned out there with Huddersfield Town, which is really sad, isn't it?
Yeah, the disconnect is. I'm not sure the club quite get just how big the disconnect is across Huddersfield.
It's not just COVID, is it, Neil? It's not just.
No, it's not
that.
just COVID. You can't just blame COVID. I think a lot of it is the fact that fans like us are pissed off because we can't go on Saturday. So there's been no build-up for us. No, I'll see you at so-and-so half on for a pint, see you down, have a brew, have a chat, whatever. There's been none of that. Absolutely none of it. And yeah, that will play a part in it. But the disconnect with local businesses and with local people goes much further than COVID. It's not just about COVID. I think COVID's hit the club hard money-wise and they're reducing parachute payments and stuff like that. Fully understand that. But that's where you people like this new guy should be out there shouting from rooftops and letting us know who he is and engaging with us and trying to get some backup from us. I don't mean us on here. I just mean the town fans in general, the Huddersfield public in general. They need to be out there banging on doors. I mean, they might be doing, but let us know you're doing it. Let us know you're doing it. Let us help you. Let's back you up with it. Let's shout it out. Let's put something on Twitter so we can retweet it and find it out for everybody. Give yourselves a presence. Give yourselves something for us to cling on to. Because when there's no football to go to, and we're losing all these players, and we've brought a couple in, there is for us now as match-going fans. There's nothing to hold on to. Nothing. And that's the longer it goes. And the club can't help this. But the longer it goes, where we can't physically go and watch a game of football, the longer people can't go in there and be with their mates and have a pint and whatever else. And it doesn't matter how bad football is. It never has mattered how bad the football is. It's all about the social aspects of going with your friends and your family and what have you. Would go regardless on Saturday. If we lost on Saturday 5-0 and we'd already arranged to go to Brentford the week after, we're still going to Brentford the week after. If we lost there 5-0, we're still going week after at home because that's what you do. But the longer that we can't go in that ground and watch a game of football, the easier it will be because people will have found other things to do. And that's where the club now, I know they can't affect that, but that's where the club now need to be engaging us in different ways and in better ways and letting us know what's going on so we can have a bit of faith, and we can, help them.
A lot of agreement on YouTube, but you guys keep going.
Yeah, sorry. I think the thing is, lads, like we've talked about it, but I was talking to Matt the other day. We're technically a Premier League club 16 months ago, and how long? Like I saw Neil share the other day about Wagner being manager of the month. That feels like 10 years ago. I know a lot's changed, but I think I talked to for the site and for some of the pods. We've talked to other fans, and like you say, Kosi, with the Norwich thing, they can tell something's up and what's going on, and it just something doesn't feel right at the club, and it does feel like relegation. There's not a lot of talk. I do think we miss Sean Jarvis, as we've touched on in quite a few pods, like coming out and being vocal, but it's kind of like burying their head in the sand because they know it's bad, and there doesn't seem anything to combat it. And I think as a fan base we can be negative. I'd agree with that. I think most fan base can be negative, but if you think about the last 2 years and how dreadful it's been, and I know the club can't, at the end of the day, the boardroom can't control what happens on Saturday sometimes, but it's just, it's just depressing. It's, I know this isn't the happy pre-season preview, but it doesn't feel right. I think that's the thing. It doesn't feel right at the club, and we all know it. And not only do our fan base know it, people outside the club start to know it now.
Yeah. One thing I said to you in that chat.
I see comments on Twitter and stuff like that, and you get people sort of saying, you not us personally, or other fans more, but people who are saying we're going to go down, that you're really negative, you're not real fans, and stuff like that. There's a you can't just be blind faith positive all the time. You've got to be realistic sometimes, and as long as you can back up your reason as to why you think we might be crap, fair enough. But I love Huddersfield Town Football Club. I would love nothing more than for us to succeed, and I think sometimes, as I'm sure you guys will, and I'm sure quite a lot of others who are in our state of mind are as well, and sometimes you love it that much that it actually hurts so bad. I was talking to a few fans the other day, and it kills me to think that we were in that position no more, like you've just said, really, 16 months ago when we stayed up at Chelsea. That was our chance. That was the chance. We would have killed to get into the Premier League just for that one season, and to actually stay up. It were unbelievable achievement. You were buzzing. You were like, right, this is the time now for Huddersfield Town to make something of this football club. And I think that alone, the fact that we've gone from there to where we are in such a short space of time, I could get quite emotional talking about it, because it just hurts that much that you've been going all these years before that, and you get to where you want to be, and you've just pissed it away. It's absolutely, it's shocking.
I'll tell you what, Poz doesn't help as well.
Made those decisions, though, there's no account. They're not being held to account. They just lose the job and they go off somewhere else, and someone else comes in and does an equally bad job, and then they're banging on things saying, "Oh, you need to buy your season ticket. You get it at same price for another couple of seasons." And all right, on face of it, it looks a good deal, does that? But actually, is that not just like a bit of blackmail from a club to say, "Look, we really need some money here. We need your." Why am I going to go and give Huddersfield Town 250 quid? When anyone else who may be struggling through all this, they're out of work, reduced wages and all that's going on, and they're making you feel bad for not spending 250 quid. And when they've had £250 million plus through those books over the last 3 or 4 years, and we're stuck with a shambolic squad, shambolic running at club from what I can see, and it's actually a disgrace, to be honest, and it really makes me upset and it makes me angry. I can't do all about it. It pisses me off. But
just say, Coles, before going on, when I was saying to mine and Brady's chat, I said when we got relegated from the Premier League, it felt not only had we been relegated a division, it felt like we've been relegated 10 years into the past as well. And that's exactly.
It's like it never happened. I don't think what helps as well is, and I hate to mention it, but Leeds are promoted. They're buzzing. The energy, the excitement they had, what kind of we got, even though they won't admit it, because. But that Crystal Palace, what they've got at Liverpool on Saturday, they're up for it. They're buzzing. I know they can't get in. Same to us. But I couldn't feel any more opposite to that. I made it about lads having all-day sessions and what have you for Leeds Saturday. They can't wait. Yeah, right, a few results. They're probably wanting, to be sacked. But that's where we were there. And they were there.
I'm going to have a cup of tea watching I Follow like that.
Yeah. I think Phil's hit the nail on the head earlier on. I think this is going to be such a bumpy season. I think if we come through it and stay up, we get some good young players kind of shining at the end of it. We finished 20th, but some of the Osterfields and, Edmonds Green has kind of made it. Maybe some signings has come on, and then we can kind of go again next year. I just think it's a crash helmet job this year. It really is.
Thing is, all you've got here is 6 people who are just fans who've been up and down the country, here, there, and everywhere. Just fans. That's all we are. We're no else. And what we're saying is what God knows how many other thousands of people are thinking. And the noise is absolutely deafening from outside of the state that it feels like that we're in. The noise it's loud, it's getting louder, isn't it? It's the disconnect.
Wait till Grant goes, Neil.
I don't think that'll be as big as you're expecting. I think if Grant's not replaced with somebody for a few bob, I think that's when you'll get it.
Just the progress, lads.
Yeah, but it's but it's just.
I think Grant going to a good bit of business. To be honest,
yeah, I do for that money.
If replaced,
that money because he didn't want to be here, does he?
Yeah.
But if replaced,
I don't think anyone would say that selling Grant's bad. It's like you say, nearly, if we get 18 million for Grant, and then even if we buy someone next for 500,000, even if it's not the replacement, like, well, we got 18 million. Why are we only spending 500,000? Just how it is. If he walks out at dawn, we don't get 5-6 players in using that money, then quite rightly people will be asking questions.
And I don't think the club understand quite how pissed off some people are. I think they're very blasé about what's going on, and we did a little joke, didn't we, at the end of last season about the 2-man protest, not a protest, from a couple of our mates down there, Dale Marsden and what have you. I can guarantee you, if you do not spend that money, or if you do not take that seriously, there'll be a lot more than 2 people down there before long at the front of the door. And we're not here to kind of throw threats or anything like that. It's just people are annoyed, and you need to listen to the people.
As Danny said earlier on, we've won 25 games in 122. I mean, the fact that anybody's buying a season ticket on back of that's phenomenal, to be honest, isn't it?
The patience, considering that record, is amazing for Huddersfield fans. It's amazing.
It's absolutely ridiculous. Imagine this. Imagine that at Newcastle United, for example. I know they're a little bit hot-headed up there.
Oh, man, yeah.
They're setting fire to the stadium and stuff, man. And what are we doing? Oh, yeah, let's go give them another 250 quid so I can sit in my front room and watch an eye play.
I think the club are going to be in for a shock, because if we do get back to 5,000 stadiums, and I honestly think we'll struggle to get 5,000 in. And I was arguing with my mother tonight about it, and she was saying, well, COVID, people won't be safe. That is a reason, because you won't be able to sit with your friends. But I don't think the club get that. I really don't. I think, they'll come back once the gates are open. The disconnect is huge, man. And it's so sad, because how many season card holders did we have? I know a lot of it were kind of jumping on the bandwagon. But
18,000, though. It's still brilliant.
Yeah.
Bandwagon should still have been rolling a bit longer, though, shouldn't it?
Oh, it's like, yeah. Jesus, to cheer us up, Brady. Come on, sing us a song or something, man.
I tell you what, let's do the predictions, seeing as though you ruined my agenda.
Oh God, we've done
Phil kept very quiet. Phil kept very quiet. Let's have a laugh at our predictions. So top 6. So the top 6 predictions for us. Does anybody want to go first, or do you want me to go first?
Go on,
Matt.
You go, Matt. Go on.
So top 6 for me. I personally think the short turnaround will really benefit those teams that have come down. It feels like an anticlimax talking about this now, but and I think the COVID situation will really affect some clubs, and I think we'll see a bit of a split between the haves and have-nots in this division, especially surrounding parachute payments that go into the transfer kitty, let's say. So Watford, my tip, if this new manager that they've got is any good, I've tipped Watford to win the league. If he's not that great, then Norwich. So not Watford and Norwich.
Oh, you've stuck your neck out there, Matt.
Yeah. My third place, maybe a little bit more of a next to count, but I quite
Wickham.
I quite fancy Cardiff City to do well. I think Kiefer Moore's a really good signing.
I agree, Matt.
I've got Cardiff in third, Brentford fourth. I think Watkins and Benrahma. Watkins has gone. Benrahma's apparently set to go. I think they're big misses, and even Tony's a great player. But it's going to take a while to get up to that level of quality that Watkins and Benrahma are, because they're quality players. I've got Forest in fifth. At sixth, I'm arguing with myself over sixth. Stoke, I backed Stoke last year. Derby, if they don't get any deductions, probably could come stronger. Swansea have a shot, but I think their resurgence at the end of last year was down to Brewster and Gallagher, who've moved on.
It's good to see Stoke going for youth policy, Matt. John Obi-Mikel, James Chester and Stephen Fletcher. Good to see young guys getting a game. Joe Obi-Mikel, he's 35, man. They've got enough oldies there. What do they need anymore?
My sixth place,
It'd be a great signing for us.
Who's that? Mikel?
Lee Gregory.
It'd be a great signing for us.
My sixth place. My sixth place is, if Troy Parrott is as good as what the Irish people say is, I'm going to go with Millwall in sixth and Cardiff and Forest in the final. And
it shows you how disconnected I am, because you just said a name of a player there and I've never heard of him.
He's a Irish youth player. I watch too much Eurosport.
There you go.
He's on Chat Manager.
It's Football Manager now, Phil.
Sorry, yeah, Football Manager.
There you go. Man in the know. Who wants to go next?
I'll go next. Get it out that way.
Go on then.
I've actually changed one, because this is how much research I've done. I forgot one that teams in our league.
Huddersfield.
Expert punditry. Danger.
I think top two, Norwich, Watford, predictable. I'd put Stoke in there again like last season. I think, they've signed a lot of older players, but the players that have been there, seen it and done it, and I think they won't be in the shit that they were in this season. Brentford, purely based on they've still got a lot of good players there. They know what they're doing. Probably pull an opposite set up that they are.
Ivan Toney's a good signing for them, Neil.
Yeah, they're a class outfit off the pitch, so they won't let them suffer. And look at the money they got for Watkins. Wow, so that's. I think it showed that they'd sold 6 players that they'd paid about 5 million quid for, and they've sold them all for 100 and some million.
They want Mbenza and Diakabi, mate. Tell them.
They know what they're doing. So, Norwich, Watford, top 2. Stoke, Brentford. I've gone random here. Bristol City. I think they've made a few decent signings. I don't think they'll be far off top 6. And Cardiff. So I'd forgotten about that they were in our league, but I think they'll do all right.
Who's next? Kosi, you're making a lot of noise. Off you go.
Exactly same as you, Matt. Believe it or not, in a different order. So move on. Yeah, just pretty much that was it. I've got it all written down and proof here if you want to see it. So I'm not bothered.
It's all right, mate. I'm not that bothered. But Brady.
I think Norwich are going to win it. I think that their season last season, they kind of took the hit that they were going to get relegated, and they've added a lot of players and a lot of good championship players. Brentford, I think they'll be in the top 6. I think it depends. I do think Ivan Toney's a good player, and Brentford, they've lost good players before, and it never seems to really matter. Got Watford in there. I've also got Stoke, but I think Stoke or Bournemouth, I'm not too sure. I agree with you, Matt. I've got Cardiff in there. I think Kiefer Moore's a good signing. They played well last year. Forest. But I think Norwich. Cardiff might win the playoffs, And maybe Bournemouth.
Jazz Richards left Cardiff. Remember him? How bad he was.
I do, yeah. He's all right,
Mendes Lang. He's had his contract terminated and he's deleted all his social media. So that'll be an interesting one.
Like Van der Parra did that with us. Phil, how about you next?
Watford to win, Norwich, and then Millwall, Cardiff, Stoke, Forest.
Solid 6. Who do you fancy winning those playoffs?
Forest.
I think Forest are a good shout next year. Poz, last but not least, top 6. I can see you writing in your ledger.
Just familiar names that we've obviously already mentioned. I think Fulham, Norwich will be up there. Brentford, Watford, your obvious ones really. Again, Forest, Stoke. Did have Cardiff in there originally, but now they've lost the goal machine of Danny Ward. I think they'll just finish outside top 6 this time. I think, as you say, Matt, I think it might be the haves and have-nots this season with the money situation, and I think that'll go a long way to dictate how the league finishes. Almost a bit like a replica at Premier League, where whoever's got the most money will be up there.
I'll tell you who could have a good season on the quiet, Barnsley. It's a bit of a shout that, but they play some right football. They've got
a good manager, haven't they? But I just feel that they might be ripe for plucking towards the end of the window. They've got
today. That Jacob Brown's gone, hasn't
he? Yeah, they've got a habit of selling key players at the wrong time of Barnsley. But we'll see.
Just looking at the table of the Championship, it's a poor Championship.
It does feel it.
It really is.
Well, sorry, yeah.
That makes it even worse.
The teams last year that came. The standard was so poor last year, and that shows how bad we were.
I tell you what, though, Phil, the way I'm winning, Akin Fenwa against our defenders, I won't want to see that anytime soon, to be honest.
Probably eat two of them.
Right, okay. Right, guys. Bottom three. We've heard a couple of tips already. Do you want me to go first again on this one?
Yeah.
24th, I've got Wickham. I just think the short turnaround doesn't help the teams that have come up, and I think Coventry started really early with their recruitment because they knew they were up.
Good keeper though, Matt David Stockdale, mate. I'd rather have had him.
He was a few years ago. He's had a ropey few years, hasn't he, Stockdale?
Okay, mate. You disagree with me now, everything.
Sorry, mate. Rotherham, I like Paul Warne as a manager, but I just think, again, Rotherham, a bit of a yo-yo club. It's probably an easy one to go with. At Sheffield Wednesday, I've got -12. I think they'll dispense of the monk trumpet at some point. But I think the -12
Ain't nobody.
Yeah, they might just get galvanized by that -12. But like I said, the haves and have-nots. I think one of the bottom three will be someone who finds themselves in a bit of financial peril, and maybe somewhere, there's some funny noises sometimes at places like Birmingham City, QPR, and Derby. Obviously, if they have that 21 point, if they get sanctioned with that 21 point, that'd be great for us. But yeah, so probably
too late in day. There's no way that's happening. And if it does, it'll get passed over to next season.
Over the next 5 years, 21 points over 5 years or something stupid. Reading, questionable, but I think I'm going to go with...
Who's their new manager?
He's from
Reading. I can't remember.
He got sacked from Chicago Fire, did a Reading preview. So who knows what they're going to be like. But apparently they're looking to go up, and they're going all for it this year. So.
Tell them to practice penalties, Brady.
Hey. Have you seen that video that they did on Twitter?
Oh, mate.
Wow.
God, what about our social media? Ours looks like legendary compared to that, man.
Yeah, I'd rather have got emojis than that.
Who's next?
Rich.
I'll go. We're on relegation stuff now, aren't we? So,
bottom three, yeah.
Well, I've already filled one place, haven't I? I don't think Wednesday will get out of it. I think they'll struggle because there's still a bit of
goals, isn't it?
Yeah.
Josh Windass, Neil, no?
They've been linked with Kenneth Zaha, your mate, today, Kosi.
Brilliant. So all this could change, couldn't it, in 6 weeks? But
yeah, of course.
I'm going Town Wednesday, Wickham, and I think Rotherham, Luton, Coventry won't be far off.
Brady?
Went for the same as you, Matt. I think, obviously 12-point deduction. Look what happened with Wigan last season. They were 13th and then they got relegated. Interested to see what happened with Derby, but I think they'll be all right. Rotherham, bit of a yo-yo club. I think Coventry will do quite well, actually, because like you said, they've recruited early. Some good young players. I think Wickham probably a step too far for them, but I think they'll get some interesting results because it's the Championship and they play some very part of the bus football. But I still think they'll go down.
Phil?
Rotherham, Wickham, Luton.
Solid. Poz?
Obviously, mentioned already, Town, I think they'll fill one at relegation spots, unfortunately. I actually think Wednesday will get out of it. They're starting at -12, but they play us twice, so I suppose it's only like 6, really.
Going full on today, aren't you, Poz?
And then Rotherham and Luton or Wickham.
Right. Okay. Cool. So the last couple of predictions we've got here, we'll do them both in one go. So I've got the player to win Town's Player of the Season and Town's Breakout Player. So we've got a lot of youth players coming through. Who's going to break into the first team and make a thing of himself? So let's start with Neil because he looks happy about it.
Playing it here, Isaac and Benza. Breakout player, Adami Diakabe. He's got to play at some time, hasn't he? There you go.
Phil?
No, breakout player, Matty Daly.
Okay.
Playing it here. I'll just be happy if we have one, to be honest.
Phil, we'll come to you next.
I'm hoping breakout player Daly. I think he's got a lot about him. And then I think O'Brien again. I think he's going to have a good season again.
Yeah.
2 youngsters.
Yeah, I've gone Lewis O'Brien, Player of the Year, and Romani Edmonds-Green to be the breakout player. Looking at the back four. Brady, how about you?
Same really. I think O'Brien just be a solid again player of the season. I think breakout Matt Daly again. I think they're going to start on Pritchard, but Pritchard can't play a full season, so I think he will get chances.
Kosi, did we get your bottom three, Kosi? I can't remember how you.
It was same as Phil's. It's unbelievable. You'll think I'm just making this up as I go along, but yeah.
I'm going to ask you first from now on.
Breakout player Edmonds-Green. Player of the year Harry Toffolo, mate, and that'll cement a move away from Huddersfield Town for the 21-22 season, mate.
Mr. Positive.
Me.
Poz, yeah. Go on.
Go.
Was that a pun, man? Player of the year, you can't look. O'Brien got it last year. I think if Bacuna can knuckle down and actually play to his actual strengths, if he can get a lot out of him, then someone like Bacuna might sneak in there as player of the year. As we've all said, he's got the ability. It's just channel it in the right way. And breakout player, yeah, probably someone like Matty Daly or Edmonds-Green if they get given a good run. But I think the younger players need bringing on by those around them. So yeah, we'll see. It'll be interesting to see actually from the youth who can actually step up to championship level and cement a first team player.
I've got a couple of other points on the agenda, but I feel like we've gone on for quite a while tonight. So does anybody want to carry on, or are we happy to cut it?
I think people have heard enough, haven't they?
What were your other points, Matt?
Positivity has gone through.
Yes, yeah. The other point was, do we like the new kit? But we can do that another time. Because you wanted to talk about when we're back in the grounds, didn't you? We can do that if you want. I'm happy to go on.
It's just a bit sad, isn't it? I mean, obviously, the announcement today that this October, back in the grounds is going to be reviewed by old Mr. Johnson, and I don't know, just our kind of solidarity with the Norwich guys, and just, do you think we'll get in this season? I think we will, but Neil, you don't, do you?
I don't know. Not when you're going on local lockdown, because you've got to remember as well, we're affected locally, not just nationally. So the local lockdown was stuffed, aren't we? But I think with the news of, well, whatever they're calling it now, I don't know. I've lost my way with lockdowns and this. I know it's a bloody shambles now, to be honest. But I don't think we'll see a game in the flesh this season. That's probably my mood with all of it at the minute, to be honest.
It's going to be really hard to justify opening a football stadium and allowing 5, 6, 7, 8,000 folk in when more than 6 people can't meet and have a cup of tea together in someone's house. So,
the one thing that I can't get answered, it's so weird. So let's say with 5,000 are in December, we're in there. Someone gets tested positive, so we all have to sign up to that agreement, track and trace or whatever. Someone gets tested positive. What happens then? Do we all have to isolate who's been or not? How does that going to work?
I would imagine if it's sit around the same stand, maybe. I don't know. It's one of the big questions they've got to sort out, isn't it?
But this same person could have been at club shop mingling with others and stuff. I just don't know how you can do it. It's so weird. I mean, now the club shop's back up and they're all right, but I just, I'm glad I don't have to arrange all this because it just sounds a logistical nightmare, but it's killing me. And it's weird, isn't it, that non-league? I know it's not like kind of, conference and conference north, it's down.
Non-league,
yeah, but that ain't going to be a day to win it. I know they're saying they're going to do this, that, and the other in your agreement, but people are going to jump on each other when they score out. It's just so weird times at the moment, man. And it just got in really because I think last season we just thought, let's get the games done, however it takes, midweeks, and we were strange kick-off times, want the 13 games, get them done, bang, see you later. And I know we knew COVID wasn't going to disappear, but this just feels just an addition to last season. It don't feel like a new season to me. I know we're on a bit of a down, and that probably got something to do with it, but it don't feel like a clean start, a break, even though Jim White and his weapons on Sky will be giving it the hype and what have you. I can't get up for it, mate. Because in your head on Saturday, you're just watching it on a telly, man. You're not going.
You're sort of living the life as an armchair fan, aren't you? And it must, I'm a big Man U fan, I'm a big Liverpool fan, I love my club and all that. This just proves to me that even more so that those sort of people don't have any sort of connection with that club because there's a lot going on at town, but as Neil said earlier, you'd still be going. You'd still be up for Saturday. Even if you got, you knew you were going to get, but you'd still be up for it. Whereas now, you're not even that bothered.
Poz, I wonder how expats feel. I mean, I don't know if we've got any on the stream, but they watch it every week, so it's no different for them. I wonder if they feel different to those that go. I just don't know. It's just weird, man.
I think if you're a fan, and you go to matches, and that's your Saturday, innit? And the minute you can't go to the actual match, to me, loses 85% of the reason why you follow a football club for me, because that's the whole point of it, innit? To go and walk and shout and scream and have a beer and all that. So. The
Norwich guys, we did it today, were interested because they were saying, that until they can get back as it was, they won't go. Because even if you can go back, can your mates, you sit with your mates their distance, they can go to some games and others, no way fans. They're saying either back as it was or not all. I think a lot of people will think like that,
I'm very much in that camp. If I'm going, I want it to be as it was, or at least I know that I'm going to be sitting in the same sort of seat. If I'm going to be sat in a different stand every week or whatever, then you can't, and sat around people who you don't know every week. You kind of that again. You're losing a lot of your actual experience. If you can't shout and scream and sing and whatever, then there's not much point really for me.
Yeah, I was lucky. Obviously, playing for Huddersfield and supporting the team, you get to see them every week. And then as soon as I left the club, those Saturdays were totally different. I mean, obviously I was, played for Halifax, etc. But you'd always look for Town to score, but it wasn't the same. And then going back now and being able to go every week with my son and my daughter, it's such a different experience. It's much better. So, like you said, those expats, they must find it hard, because I found it hard not being able to watch the club for God knows how many years.
Phil, you've been a KFC hovering over at wall, mate. It's that bad. You've got a KFC, your bucket of chicken is there getting a lift up, looks peering over the wall. Canal side security, watch out for this man.
I actually wanted to see Scully and Worthy to see if they were coaching. I was going to just shout a few expletives at them over the wall just to try and put them off the side. But
you ain't got a job at Norwich. You ain't been employed by Stuart Webber to do a Bielsa, have you?
Not a chance.
Shall we just do a quick score prediction then for Saturday? We were going to do a preview, but like we say, we've been rambling on quite a lot, so it's a lot for you guys to listen to. So starting in my top left-hand corner, Neil, what's your prediction for the game on Saturday?
We'll finish second.
I'm next in my thing. I'm going to go 2-0 Norwich. Brady?
2-1 to Norwich.
Phil?
3-0 Norwich.
Poz?
I feel like I've got to say Town.
Any advance? It's like almost it's going to be like Bruce Forsyth now, isn't it? Any advance there? Higher, lower?
Because you always feel that you should predict your own club to win, but I just can't see it. So I'm with Phil. I'm going to go 3-0 Norwich.
And Kosi are the last one there.
They were quite guarded. The Norwich guys I did the thing with said 1-1, and I said I'll take that all day long.
But did with me as well, yeah.
I'm 0-3. I mean, they had their third team out last week in their cup game, but so don't think that's a guide.
Yeah. So thanks to everybody online for listening. We should have a few videos and bits and bats coming out over the next week, and no doubt we'll be back after the Norwich game as well.
One more thing, if I can just add one thing in. Obviously, everyone will see all this stuff behind me here. Tomorrow is World Suicide Prevention Day, and I just think it's pertinent to mention that when it's on us tomorrow. Obviously, everyone knows that I'm involved with Andy's Man Club, and it actually falls. My 2-year anniversary of Andy's Man Club falls tomorrow, funnily enough, and it's done wonders for me over the last 2 years. So anybody watching that feels like they do need somewhere to go and talk, come and see us. Get online at the moment. Get online with us. Email at andysmanclub.co.uk and see if it can help you like it's helped me, and count us others.
100%. Good words. Yeah, so thanks everyone for listening. Like I say, we should have a few videos coming through. We're all hopeful that this season will be a success, obviously. But alas, we have to.
And it's so
be honest,
Huddersfield Town.
Yeah, so I think,
come
on.
What
we'll say is it's
positive,
take,
you miserable guest.
A lot of precious time and spending money to get this right.
Ole, Mooney. See you later.
I got my mind set on you. I got my mind set on you. I got my mind set on you. I got got my mindset on you. And it's gonna take money, a whole lot of spending money. And it's gonna take plenty of money to do it right, child. You know it's gonna take some time, a whole lot of precious time. And it's gonna take patience and time to do it right. I got my mindset on you. 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 This time I know it's real. This feelings that I feel. I know if I put my mind to it, I know that I really can do it. I got my mindset on you. 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 And it's gonna take money, a whole lot of spending money. And it's gonna take plenty of money to do it right, child. You know it's gonna take some time, a whole lot of precious time. And it's gonna take patience and time to do it right. I got my mindset on you. 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 Set